I'm not sure if you can hear me over the truck, but right now I am headed on my way out to Morriston to grab another V8 from Euroman Auto Parts. Emery's a good guy. I'll leave some information in the description if you're ever looking for used Audi parts. He's your guy to go to if you're local, and he also does ship some parts. You know, for 8 o'clock in the morning, I knew it was going too well. We were in a little bit of a rush to load up the engine, but we got it loaded up in the truck, and now I'm leaving Euroman, and we'll make it home and check out the engine after we unload it. Had a quick little bank appointment that I didn't know about, but gives us an excuse to drive the V8 car. So here's a little bit of pulling some noise for you guys. So we have the 4.2 back, just pulled it off the truck. Just give it a little walk around here. So I did pull off the valve covers. The one side does have a bad cam chain tensioner. The pad is all messed up at the bottom. So I have a good used one that I'm going to throw in there. The new OEM ones are super expensive, so I've had good luck with decent used ones. So we'll stay with that for this one as well. Throttle body is there. We have all the secondary air combi valve stuff that we'll strip off. Obviously the full engine harness. One downside I did notice is on each exhaust manifold, one of the studs is broken off, so I will probably drill them out and put in new ones, which isn't a huge deal. Have the V8 motor mounts, which is good. Obviously we're going to take off AC, so that doesn't matter. Good power steering pump. I will have to source another feed line, as I already bought the one off of this engine for the red car. Alternator looks good. Obviously we have the ECU. One thing that I do know that's bad, and it's hard to find good ones, is the intake flap. I guess on that side works, but I believe, yeah, this side, as you can see, it's snapped and seized up, so that's probably why it snapped. I also have the downpipes for this car already that I picked up a while ago, but I'm sure that I can figure out how to fix that like I did on the last AWN. Something to note, this does have the larger throttle body too, the more desirable one, so that's a plus as well. As usual, I'll replace and clean up the oil filter housing and the little gasket in the back there, but otherwise this looks like a pretty good candidate to fix up and find a clean shell to swap it in and probably sell it. So if anyone's interested in buying a V8 swap B5, this will be the engine that I'm gonna end up putting into one of them and put it up for sale in the future. So another early start to the day, left at about 7 o'clock, and right now I'm waiting at Christian's house because we are taking the B5 S4 to the dyno. We're gonna see how those K24 turbos do with the upgraded wastegates. So to start off, I think we're gonna do a few street pulls and logs to get it ready, and then on the dyno, we'll do a few revisions hopefully, and obviously I'll be there to hopefully help out with any mechanical issues that might come up. I'm definitely excited to see what we end up putting down, so hopefully we'll have good luck and nothing weird will happen like it usually does, unfortunately, when we're pushing something this hard. Maybe we'll talk about the car at the dyno, and I'll get some good filming in for once. So we're back at Dyno Tune Racing. We got the car strapped up. We had to repair the meth lines. There was a kink in one and it was slipping off the other. And we also had to adjust the diverter valve hose that had ripped. So we're ready to do the RPM snapshot, and then we're going to do our first pulls. Here's an update of where we're at with the tune. This is kind of a funny graph. You can see the wiggly line is where the very first run of the dyno was with this car, and how far we've come with not only learning the tuning intricacies, but also adding some hardware and fixing that up. So as you can see, started at 402, we're up to 542. We also just figured out some issues with throttle cut around 6300. So today I'm doing a little bit of work on the V8 car again. I've been putting off a few things like rolling the front fenders. They're really chewing up the 19-inch tires, which aren't that cheap, so I really need to get that fixed. as well as splice the cut ABS sensors when I dropped the entire subframe on this car. And I'm sure there's a few other little things that I might be able to check out, but for now that's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to get started. So if you can see, maybe not with the exposure happening here, but right in this area, I really chewed up the fender. There's bits of the tire right there. So first I'll have to take out the fender liner bolts, and then I've asked Bo from Ontario Fender Roller to swing by, and he's going to help me trim out the fender liner and roll these front fenders. He's definitely the guy to go for this. So maybe I'll ask him a few questions, and make sure to leave his information in the description below if you're in the area and you need work done by him. So here's the ABS sensors that I had mentioned, or wheel speed sensors. So I ended up cutting it here just because personal car, and I just wanted to get this done fast because there's no quick disconnect in this area. So there's 4 wires in each of these, 1 for the pad wear sensor, 2 for the pad wear sensor and 2 for the speed signal. So I'm gonna have to strip this back, and I'm hoping that all the colors just match up and I don't need to trace anything back. I have to do the same on the other side. I did notice though, I don't have the pad wear wire coming out of this harness on the other side, so I'm going to have to look at that a little bit closer and figure out what happened. I finished wiring in the plugs for the ABS disconnects, or the wheel speed sensor disconnects, and I also ended up connecting the pad wear sensors at the back of this connector, so I don't have to worry about those throwing a code on the dash anymore. So as you can see, unlike the factory, now we have a clip here where we can disconnect the wheel speed sensor. If I drop the whole subframe, I don't need to cut any wires. As you know, if you've worked on these cars, the wheel speed sensor comes up into here and there's actually no disconnect, and basically it's impossible to ever get out the ABS sensor, as you can see there. Usually the bolt is seized in if there is one. These ones don't even have the bolt, so I think it's just wedged in there, and I've never had one come out successfully, especially up in Canada. As you can see, I used some heat shrink to create a boot to more closely make this connector weather tight. There's little plugs at the back here in the connector to seal it, and it has the seal as well on the male end. So the unfortunate part of all this is that I realized it wasn't the wheel speed sensors that were causing my ABS and ESP to not work. The V8, or the 2002 to 2001 4.2s and the A6s, how they're wired into the ABS module and communicate with the ECU is completely different than with how the facelift 2001 B5s do. So at this point, I'm kind of calling it quits on getting the ABS and ESP to work. I'd have to change a lot of modules and mess with CAN bus lines, and in reality, it's just not worth it. Eventually, someday, if I'm really bored or slow, I'll work on that stuff. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. I just like that I have the quick connects now, just in case I do ever get it working, because I'm sure that this motor will come out and back in before I end up fixing the ABS and ESP. So now that that's kind of done-ish, we're going to work on rolling the fenders so these summers will fit, because it's pretty much cold enough here now to throw on winters, but I don't want to have to worry about this in the spring. So Bo had shown me, he had swung by earlier, he had shown me where to cut the fender liner. So thanks to Ontario Fender Roller, I'll leave some information in the description below. I can now finish up the job myself with the fender roller. I have started to finally pull off some of the parts on the 2.7 from the parts car. So as you can see, the Hemi throttle body adapter, I've got the bipipes off. I'll finally start pulling the turbos down there and getting this all cleaned up and organized and down to more of a bare block. So that's where I'm going to end the video. So on the V8 car, you saw I fixed the ABS sensors. I rolled the fenders. I didn't show much of that because I did a pretty poor job, but that's why you pay someone like Bo from Ontario Fender Roller to do it properly. So I'll leave his info in the description if you are a local. Again, I also found out that this car probably will never have ABS or ESP unless I spend a lot of time integrating the C5 A6 modules and such, so it's just not worth it. I would probably be better off actually swapping back to an ART harness and ECU, as that ABS module is way easier to interface and should actually work plug and play. If you guys are watching this video as it comes out, make sure to stay tuned for Saturday's video. I'm going to be introducing a really cool project for you B5S4 guys that you won't want to miss. So as usual, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and our website. And until the next one, I'll see you guys soon.